Hello, welcome back to All for United WSC. Well, you thought we'd stop these player profiles, but no, we thought we'd get one more in for you to talk all about Gabby George. So I've got Peter with me to talk all about her. You know how these player profiles goes. United have made a lot of business done this summer, so you know how these run by now. So I'm not going to waste any more time. So firstly, Peter, welcome to the channel. Thank you for joining us. I'll just ask you straight off the back, your thoughts on the signing.
Well, I think it's a big blow for Everton. First of all, Gabby George has been an absolutely incredible servant for Everton Football Club over nearly 10 years. She's been part of the furniture since I've been going to watch Everton women, and it's certainly going to be a huge blow. She's a great leader, a fantastic footballer, someone who's strong, powerful, someone who has never let us down in the entire time she's been there. She's been named our Supporters Club Player of the Season on a number of occasions. She's adapted to different positions very well. It's a huge blow for Everton. Great signing for Manchester United. I feel that Gabby George is probably one of the most underrated players in the WSL. Even though she does get some plaudits and she is appreciated by other fans, I don't think people quite understand just how good a player she is until you see her regularly. She's absolutely superb. And as I say, it's a huge loss for Everton Football Club. I kind of feel that if this would have happened a couple of seasons ago, I think we would have been in a worse position. But given that position that she's been playing the last season at left wing back, we do have other options there in Elise Stanovic and Sarah Homegaard. So I think if Gabby was going to leave, this was probably the right time for it, because we do have people who can come in and fill in that position. But certainly it's a huge loss for us and a great signing for Manchester United.
It's interesting you say, because when we did a Team of the Year show at the back end of last year on this channel for 2022, obviously we were discussing defenders and these kinds of things, and we put a rule in basically that you could only pick maximum of 3 per club, which obviously limited Chelsea. So Millie Bright didn't make the team for we changed the rule in the end because we thought we had to get her in. But Gabby George was the one name actually that was mentioned repeatedly. Like, why is she not in there? Why do you think she's maybe not rated as high? Do you think it's maybe a Lionesses thing? Do you think if she was in the Lionesses squad, maybe we'd look at her maybe in a different light? Or do you think it's maybe because she's not fighting at the top end of the WSL, people don't see her week in, week out? Why do you think that is, that she's maybe not as highly rated?
I think it's probably a mixture of both. I think it's sort of chicken and egg, isn't it? Because if players are in the spotlight more, they get more of a chance of getting in the Lionesses squad. I personally can't understand why she hasn't been selected for Lionesses, even with the quality in that squad. You know, it's well documented how fantastic England are, but when I for the life of me cannot understand why she hasn't been a more regular starter for England, other than the fact that she's been in Everton and not at Manchester United. And that's no disrespect to our own side. It just seems to be the way of the world and the way of the football world. The players, regardless of form, sometimes aren't picked on form. They're sometimes picked even if they're not necessarily playing every week for their club. You know, if the name fits, they kind of get picked. So I think with Gabby, yeah, I think anyone who watches her will see the quality that she has. And I think Manchester United fans will be massively surprised if she doesn't get into the Lionesses squad sooner rather than later and nail down a place in that squad. She's very versatile as well. She can play a number of different positions. She's got quality. She's fantastic at one-on-one defending. She's quick. She's strong, powerful. She's actually got a goal in her as well. It's one of the things that she's adapted to really well over the last sort of couple of seasons is coming in on her right foot as well. She scored an absolute screamer for us last season into the top bin. Ironically, just before the Lionesses squad was picked, and Serena Wiegman had said something along the lines of that Gabby needed to improve to get game time for the Lionesses, and then she ended up being our Player of the Month and then didn't get picked. And we were all thinking, well, I'm not really sure what else she could have done, to be honest with you. But yeah, I suppose it's one of those things, isn't it? If you're playing for a club who are playing regular football in the Champions League or playing towards the top end of the table, it then automatically means that they get more picks on on Sky. They're on TV a lot more, and there's a lot more attention automatically brought to these players. There's a lot more pressure as well. So yeah, and also if you're playing in the side which is playing open, free football, where you're not necessarily having to defend as much and you're not necessarily having to, under the cosh as much. You've got, a fantastic forward line who are scoring goals for fun. I suppose it takes the pressure off as well. So any deficiencies aren't exposed as much. So I think it's a mixture of all things. But as I say, as a person, as a player, I think she's absolutely top draw.
No, I tend to agree with that actually. From the bits I have watched at Everton, she's always been one of those ones. Obviously, got a couple of good youngsters. Well, Benison's another one I absolutely love at Everton, by the way. But before we kind of
hands off,
I was going to say I'm surprised United and other clubs aren't sniffing around her. I don't think it would be too much longer for a player like her. But before we kind of look at her, we'll talk a little bit about her best position and attributes and those kind of things. Just the last thing, kind of on the deal itself. Were you a little bit surprised how late it came in the window? Because it kind of came out of nowhere. I think it was on Wednesday. It was either Wednesday or Tuesday that it kind of broke from Tom Gary, I think it was at the time. Just said, "Oh, United have put the release clause fee in the 150,000 for Gabby George." Were you a little bit surprised how late it came? Because that's not a name that I'd heard leading up to that point that United were pushing for.
Well, I think with Gabby there was always a question mark, and I think it's been a long time. I remember when we played Manchester United at Southport when United was still in the Championship. It was the season that United got promoted, and there was a big deal made then by the United fans singing about Gabby George being a United fan and Jesse Lingard's cousin. I always think that there's always been a bit of a question mark with Gabby, and I think the assumption always was that if she ever left Everton, it would be to go to Manchester United. I know that she was linked with Man City in January, which was a surprise to me, and I just didn't think that was a good fit. I didn't think, for one, I know that Gabby's a huge Manchester United fan, so I couldn't have seen her going there and doing an Alex Greenwood. So I think it was, I just didn't see that happening. So the timing of it was a surprise. Certainly, again, even I hadn't heard anything about United coming in for it. I'd heard previous rumours about United coming in for it, but this one kind of took me by surprise. And certainly, this late in the window, like you say, it was a bit difficult for Everton to then go out and replace her. But given that United apparently have met the release clause, there was no real option for us. And I think that Gabby would have jumped at the chance to rejoin Manchester United, where she started a career as a youngster. So it's the timing of it wasn't perfect for Everton. But as I say, if any Evertonians are watching, I'm not too disheartened just because we do have options in those positions still.
No, for sure. I think it just surprised me. Like I know we were linked for a couple of other players, and then we needed a fullback or fullback cover, or defensive cover, I should say. And that kind of leads me on nicely in terms of where you think her best position is, because you mentioned obviously that adapted role last season, kind of the left wing back. Where would you kind of say her best position is coming into this United side? Do you think she's filling in as centre back cover? Do you think she's covering off the left, or starting on the left, or starting in the middle? What can you kind of see her best position?
Well, I think, to be honest, we were all very surprised that Brian Sorensen had moved her out to the left wing back role. He also moved Lucy Hope to the right wing back, and she was more of a central midfielder. But Brian Sorensen has shown in a very short space of time that he's able to adapt players, and he's able to get the best out of them. I think with Gabby's attributes, a lot of it, as I've mentioned before, she's very, very, very fast, like ridiculously quick, very powerful. She's so hard to get the ball off. We saw a new dimension to her play last season. We previously seen her able to sort of carry the ball out from the centre from centre half and be able to sort of attack from that position. But she was, but certainly the left wing back role has suited her down to the ground. So it's. I think she's a fantastic option in either position, whether she plays a left centre half or a left wing back. It'd be interesting to see how United play her.
I'm really intrigued because obviously at the time of recording this, there's talk that potentially Jade Riviere is out injured, and if that is the case, and if that is longer term, obviously Canada play pretty soon, so we'll see how that one goes in through the international break if she's in the squad there. But if that is the case, and Jade's got a sketchy injury record, I wouldn't be surprised to see Hannah Blundell go to right back and see Gabby George filling left back. And again, not against that, when you're paying that kind of fee, it wouldn't surprise me. So I'm really intrigued to see where she fits in here. Because, and I wasn't going to ask this question yet, but I will actually while we're on that kind of topic. How do you think she would have accepted this role? Obviously, we know she's a big United fan and all those kind of ties there. Do you think she would have accepted this role if there wasn't the guarantee of some guaranteed playing time? Because she's going from a team, obviously, at Everton, where she plays a lot, obviously gets a lot of minutes. Do you think she would have accepted United if that wasn't going to be the case, or do you think she's probably been guaranteed that you'll get X amount of minutes, or you'll be starting X amount of games and so on?
I think first and foremost, I think Gabby's a very confident player. I think she's very assured in her own ability. She's a fan. You could put Gabby George up against anyone, and if you give her enough time, she'll nail that place down. I think if she was told that her game time would be limited, I think she'd see that more of a challenge rather than a detriment. I think she'd be looking to try and nail down that place anyway. So I think, you know, it's certainly, if a message to the other Manchester United players, if you think you're going to be starting ahead of her, you might have, you know, you might be surprised because Gabby certainly won't want to be going there and being sat on the bench and picking up her wages at the end of the week. She wants to play football, and she wants to play football regularly. So I don't think there's any guarantees in football. Even when a manager sort of says to a player, you'll be getting loads of time, I don't think that can be guaranteed. It's all dependent on form, and it's all dependent on how you fit into a system. But I think with Gabby George, you'll get a player who's fully committed, someone who will be able to adapt, and as I say, someone who will fight for her place. She's you know, I can't understate or overstate. I can't overstate just how good a footballer she is. I can't, you know, and a person as well. She's got such a determination about her, and I really think she's going to be a fantastic player for Manchester United.
I certainly hope so. I love doing these player profiles because everyone who comes on, every single one we've done has really hyped me up into believing what a fantastic footballer that we've signed. And
I should have come on and said, nah, she's rubbish, send her back.
Because that's why I love doing these, because it's... I'm believing we're building the Champions League winning squad here, but no, I'm not that deluded. We're not going to win the Champions League. But some of the United fans, you're welcome to think that if that's what you want to think in going into the next season. You mentioned a couple of her attributes there. What would you kind of say her kind of standouts are? Then obviously you mentioned she's quite quick, obviously versatile as well. You mentioned at the start of this. What would you say her kind of standout attributes?
I would say that one-on-one defending, she's absolutely fantastic with. You know, she's got a lot of strength, a lot of upper body strength, but she's also it's her pace. She's strong in the tackle as well. She's just an all-round great defender, to be honest with you. You couldn't really pick out a weakness, and as I touched on before, one of the things she has improved over the last couple of seasons is her right foot as well. She's now got the ability to cut in onto her right foot and slam one in from 25 yards. So it's really tough to pick out a kind of a weakness in her game. And as I say, certainly playing with other players, I think the potential for her to improve even more is there. It's scary, to be honest with you, because as I say, she just I couldn't sit here and tell you a weakness in her game. She genuinely is just a fantastic player. One thing that she, you know, hopefully she can ensure that she stays fit. She's had a couple of serious injuries. She was out for almost a full season with an ACL injury a couple of seasons ago, but the way she came back was fantastic. You know, hit the ground running and didn't look any different as a player. In fact, she came back even stronger. She sometimes you have to rein her in a bit in terms of her sprints in the 90th minute, because I know she's picked up a few hamstring injuries doing that. Because again, it's just down to her, you know, pure determination and her fight and her willingness to win a game of football. Sometimes you might have to rein her back a bit and just say to her, just calm it down a bit, you know. But yeah, I just think she's a fantastic player. I couldn't pick out a weakness in her game.
I was going to say, while you were saying that as well, I was just trying to find like the goal I think you're referring to, the one against Reading, the kind of cutting past a couple of players onto the right foot. And I remember, now I've watched it back, I do remember seeing that at the time actually, that it's, you know, for a defender to be doing that, you know, you expect that from kind of your wingers and your forwards, but sub strike on her as well. So yeah,
and didn't get an England call up.
I think that. Well, I'll ask you actually. Is there going to be a little bit of, I guess, disgruntledness? That's definitely not a word, but amongst the Everton fans, if she starts the season with United and then gets straight into the Lionesses squad, is there going to be a little bit of like, oh well, yeah, it's clearly a United bias thing, or like a top team bias thing, or something like that? Or would you be really, obviously, I'm sure you'd be happy for her as well, but would there be a little bit of like, well, she was doing this for us, why wasn't that noticed?
Yeah, I think there will be. Like you say, first of all, I'd be delighted for Gabby. I think she deserves it. I think we've all been hyping her up for a number of years now. I think that she should have been a regular for England already. I think one thing it does, it's a difficult one, because you look at it and the likes of Rachel Daly, obviously she's been fantastic for Aston Villa, and she's nailed down she's actually been put back up front for England as well as being switched back to left wing back. But I think Rachel Daly's coming and proving how much of a fantastic goal scorer she is. So you couldn't necessarily leave her out. But there are very few players outside of that sort of top 3 or 4 sides who get the recognition that they deserve. And I think sometimes it's dangerous in terms of the development of the game for that to be the case, because what you want to have in that squad is players who are playing regular football and players who are playing, to the best of their ability, not players who are sat on the bench and getting picked just because their name fits. I think in terms of the development of the game, I think it's a dangerous precedent to set, to say that you're going to only get picked if you play for one of those top 4 sides, because, as I say, it doesn't guarantee first team football. I think it's massively important that there is proper work done by the people who do the scouting for all of these England players, to make sure that they pick the players who are on top form and they pick players on ability rather than just who they play for. But certainly for Gabby going to Manchester United, and if you can get through the Champions League qualifier, tough draw, but if you can get through that, if she's playing at the top level in the Champions League, it's going to be a fantastic pedestal for her to be on, and certainly it'll be able to showcase her footballing skills. So yeah, I'd be delighted for Gabby, but yeah, there will be a massive tinge of bitterness, I'd probably say. A little bit.
That's the word, not disgruntled, as bitterness. That's the word.
We know all about that, yeah.
That's the word I was after. My kind of final question before I come to the kind of quick fire rating at the end, in terms of how you think she'll adapt to the different pressures at United. Because obviously at Everton, the WSL is kind of split, isn't it? You got the top 4 fighting for that Champions League place. Maybe we'll get a top 5 this season. Who knows? Then you've kind of got 5th and 6th. Then you've got the mid-table, and then you've got maybe 2 fighting for relegation. So it's kind of split. And Everton always seem to fall into that middle bracket in the WSL. Obviously at United, there's going to be a whole different pressure pushing for the title. There's a lot of pressure now to win a trophy next season with the amount of money we've spent this summer. Obviously the Champions League qualifiers are massive for us as well, as you mentioned, a huge tie against PSG coming up. How do you think she'll adapt to those different pressures of, if she's in the team, especially if she's starting, she's going to have a lot of eyes on her right from the off?
Yeah, I think the pressure is different. I think one of the main differences will be in terms of the demand from supporters. I think certainly Manchester United, it's only a relatively young side, if you like, in terms of, obviously United didn't have a women's side for so long, but they've I think it's fair to say they're probably ahead of schedule in terms of getting promotions to WSL and then challenging for the title. So yeah, there are going to be those pressures. Obviously United have got I think they've announced record season ticket sales at Lee Sports Village, haven't they? So there are going to be pressures, but don't underestimate the pressure at Everton Football Club. We have a huge legacy in the women's game. We do have them. We do have those demands on our players. We do want to see the best out of those players. We certainly push them every kick and every second and every minute of every game. So I think Gabby will be used to a level of pressure. I think the pressure might be slightly different in terms of when things aren't going your way. I think Evertonians, we have a saying, which is the spirit of the Blues, which basically means that we back our team whether we're winning 4-0 or getting beat 4-0. We want to back our team, and we don't want to get on their backs, and we want to sort of push them on and keep them going. I think that in those situations, if United are losing a game, that might be where players are tested the most. That's where players need the support the most. But certainly it's a different kind of pressure if you're really pushing for a league title. So yeah, the pressures are different. But I'm sure Gabby can handle it. I'm really sure she can handle it. I think that I think I've touched on before, she's got a very self-assured character. She's very confident in her own ability. She's able to block out the noise as well. I don't think it'll phase her, to be honest with you. And as we've touched on before, she's going to be playing for a childhood club, and I think it's going to mean everything to her. And one thing you can guarantee from Gabby George is that she'll give everything for the badge and for the shirt and for the fans.
No, for sure. It's a question I thought I'd ask, because I feel like, obviously if United are pushing for the WSL title next season, there's literally, you can only really afford to lose 2 games at the most if you're pushing for the title when you're fighting with Chelsea and Arsenal and so on. That draw, actually, funny enough, against Everton, pretty much cost us the title last season.
That's why my eyes lit up a bit like that.
I was going to get to that, yeah. So that's it. If you're fighting for the WSL title, you literally cannot afford to drop any points anywhere. And as you know, rightly, that draw, which was incredibly frustrating because we had a lot of shots, but so many off target. I remember it was shooting practice was needed after that one. But
funnily enough, in the warm up, I thought your shooting looked great. It was it was quite scary from our point of view because you were slamming in all kinds of goals in the top bins in the warm up. But yeah, just didn't quite work out in the game.
No, certainly didn't. Hoping for a different result. Obviously,
we were due one against you. Surely we were due a point against you. You beat us every time we play you. The one time it really counted, though. The one time.
I know it's every United fan when we look back at last season, we're like that draw because obviously if we get the win in that one, we're level points with Chelsea, and the title goes down to goal difference. And at the time, we were ahead of Chelsea on goal difference, so it would have been a whole different ball game. So yeah, a little bit frustrating. But we'll move past that. A kind of quick fire question in terms of how would you rate this signing out of 10 from the players' point of view and also from the club's point of view?
From a Manchester United point of view, a 10. Genuinely a 10. I think if there are any, I'm sure there aren't many, but if there are any Man United fans who are underwhelmed by the signing, I think you'll quickly change your mind when you see Gabby in a Manchester United shirt. I think it's one of the signs of the summer for me. From a Man United point of view, as I say, it's kind of mitigated slightly with Everton in terms of because she's moved to that left wing back role for us over last season. The fact that we've got two young, hungry up and coming players who can slot in and go into that position. It's probably the strongest we've been in that position over the last few years. It would have been an absolute disaster to have lost Gabby George a couple of seasons ago, but I feel that at least this season we're in a good position where we've got players who can come in. But in terms of Manchester United, 10 out of 10, absolutely fantastic signing.
See, that is the final player profile of the season, or this summer rather, and you've given the highest rating. Obviously she can't go any higher, but yeah, we've not. It was all 8s and 7s, I think, for all the other signs. And Gabby George is the only one to get above an 8, so I'm happy with that. It's ended on a really positive one on that front. So that's nice to hear. Peter, thank you so much for joining us and for coming on, obviously giving up your Saturday morning to come on and record this one. For people who don't know, I don't know when this is going to go out. It'll probably go out in a few hours, actually, so it's not that much difference. But if people want to follow you or find any of your kind of work that you do as well around Everton, where can people do all of that?
Yeah, if you have a look on Twitter, I run the EWSC pod on the Blue Room, which is available on Spotify and all Apple Music and all those things, YouTube. So yeah, if you just give us a follow on Twitter and you can see all of our content there. I also am secretary of the official supporters club, the Everton Women Official Supporters Club. So give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram. And yeah, I'm sure we'll see you all at Walton Hall Park. Just another note as well, just to wish Gabby all the best of luck as well, and her family as well. Her family have been following Everton home and away over the years. They've been part of the furniture as much as Gabby has. So certainly want to wish Gabby and all the family the best of luck, and yeah, wish them all the best for the future.
No, 100%. I think I like transfers like this where there's no kind of, I guess, bad blood between. We've seen a couple with United this summer, obviously, where there was a little bit of, I guess, animosity between the clubs that certain players decided to go to, but not for all of them. So I like signings like this. Obviously, if you watch this on YouTube, make sure you're liking the video, subscribing. If you're listening on Spotify or wherever else that you, as Peter said there, I don't know where else this goes out. So if you're listening on any of those, come and tweet us at allforunitedvids, give us your thoughts on the sign, and obviously drop a comment below and let us know your thoughts on the sign as well if you're watching this back on YouTube. We are going to be back on Monday night where we'll be discussing the transfer window as a whole. So many outgoings, so many incomings, 8 incomings, and I can't remember, I've lost track of how many outgoings now. So we'll be live at 7 o'clock on Monday to talk through all of that kind of stuff. So make sure you subscribe, turn the notifications on and all those kind of stuff. And we shall see you guys then.